Hi guys, my name is Mandy and I am a writer and a career coach, and I talk about how to bring more creativity and joy into your life. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the topic of how to build inner authority. By inner authority, I mean sovereignty, a sense of agency, a sense of self-determination to feel confident and grounded in what you want to do in this life. So in this episode, I'm going to take you through 5 key questions that I want you to ask yourself as a way to practice self-inquiry and reflection and actually get closer to your goals. But before I do that, I want to kind of unpack, why are we even talking about this topic to begin with? So I'm going to start by talking about a typical journey, and there may be some parts where you I really resonate with that, and there may be others where you're like, that's not exactly my situation. But I'm going to talk general in order for you to kind of just understand where we're going. Okay, so let's start back when you were in high school, for example. I want you to think about the sort of temperature and mood of being in high school and how you might have been encouraged to pursue certain extracurriculars. Okay, so it might have been it'd be really great for you to be in sports, or it'd be really great for you to be in musical theater, or it'd be great for you to be on the debate team, or whatever it is. Okay, and these sorts of activities began typically as a kind of self-expression, as a kind of, this is something I'm interested in. This is something that would be cool to do. There's a social aspect to it. If you were in a bit of a high pressure environment, there may have also been this is going to look really good for when you apply to colleges. But in the beginning, in its sort of purest form, the things that you did, the activities that you excelled in, were about your personal growth and were about, hey, these are just things that I like to do. It doesn't define, I'm a volleyball player, but that doesn't define my entire existence. Actually, I didn't make the volleyball team. I was in musical theater, obviously. But it's what you did was just kind of something you did. It didn't necessarily take on this kind of identity, right? I think as we go through life, though, if you start thinking about, college, for example, college becomes, or any kind of, higher education program, becomes a time then when you're sort of expected to choose something. And that this starts to take on a little bit more meaning, right? I'm not going to be a poli-sci major because that's not really who I am. Or, well, I don't really see myself being a doctor. Or, I really love writing. I love the humanities, so I'm going to do sociology, or I'm going to pursue an English or history degree. So then I want you to think about that transition from an academic environment into a perhaps corporate one or a working one. Okay, a 9-to-5 kind of traditional world where what you choose suddenly becomes more of your identity, right? And it can feel quite existential at this point. I mean, it can feel like, I don't want to get it wrong. I really have to choose what I'm going to do. And there's so much pressure, especially when you're younger, because you're you don't know what you don't know. So you're kind of well, I have 4 data points, what my sister did, and then what I've seen on TV, and I don't even know, so you just sort of choose something. But what happens is that our identity starts to become a little bit more entwined with what we do externally. So it starts to become almost a game. Okay, there are these achievements out there, and if I can get them, right? If I can get a really competitive job, or if I can make a lot of money, then that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like somehow I'm the best in my category. So we carry around this pressure, right? We feel like, God, wouldn't it be so great if I was the best? And what does that mean? It just means that I'm a cut above the rest. It means that I am able to achieve these things that no one else is able to achieve. So there's all of these things that are outside of us that have this sort of achievement quality, where it's suddenly if I'm able to get a job at this really prestigious place, that okay, I can exhale. I feel like maybe I've made it. And if I can't, then what does that say about me? And maybe I feel kind of not great about myself. Or maybe I'm just resigned to the fact that, like, okay, this whole achievement thing, like, it's not for me. I'm not able to be like in the top 10%, whatever that means. And I'm just gonna live my life. The dynamic here that we have to examine is one where our sort of internal climate, our internal temperature, our internal system is being dictated a large part by things that happen outside of us, based on what school you went to, based on what job you work at, based on what prestigious profession you're in. Oh my gosh, you work in consulting. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, you got a job in big tech. That's nearly impossible. You're incredible, right? So we start to couple our identity with what we do. And as the years go on, the pressure continues. It doesn't actually ever lessen. It becomes this thing where you feel like you're on this never-ending treadmill of, oh my gosh, I have to keep achieving. I have to keep running at this really fast clip, at this really fast pace, or else I'm going to fall behind. And so hopefully some of this language that I'm laying out feels a little bit familiar to you, right? And I'm kind of sharing this because I think it's important to understand the collective environment that we are all in. We kind of grow up in these systems. We're kind of raised in these systems where we are taught that, you know, we have to keep chasing and that we have to have this external validation in order to be something, in order to be worth something. And it's actually very radical to say you're just worth something because you exist. Because of your very existence, even if you did nothing, even if you achieved nothing, accomplished nothing, you're still worthy. You've probably also heard this term imposter syndrome. I think a couple years ago, this really became like all the rage. And maybe I just see it a lot because of my experience with career coaching. I just have so many experiences with clients who come to me and they just, I mean, the number one thing is like imposter syndrome. Let's say they get a promotion and all of a sudden they're doing a job that they haven't done before. They feel imposter syndrome. Let's say that they are pivoting into a new industry and all of a sudden they're like with people with different backgrounds. They feel imposter syndrome, right? And what is imposter syndrome really? It's this feeling that that you're unqualified for something and that you're going to get caught. And then there's sort of two parts to it, right? One is that you're kind of a secret agent in hiding, like you never deserved this in the first place. And the second part is that you're going to get caught, and when you get caught, you will be exiled. You will be kicked out. People will point their fingers at you. The spotlight will shine and everyone will be like, you're unqualified. And then they'll kick you out. Okay. So people walk around in corporate America these days with this very present and searing fear that they're like not supposed to be here, that they didn't earn it, that they don't deserve it, and that they're going to get caught and kicked out. I mean, that's a very intense feeling to just exist with on a daily basis, right? I name this also so that you know if you are feeling this way, first off, you're not alone. And second off, the system probably wants you to feel that way because people who are feeling imposter syndrome are gonna be really hungry and really working hard to constantly try to achieve that sense of validation that is just, it's impossible. Right? So someone who's in a posture of running endlessly on a treadmill, sweating their brains out is going to be really great for a corporate system. Corporate loves that. They're like, this is amazing. You mean like her little insecurity or their little insecurity means they're going to like work later, do more, sweat more, put more hours in? Perfect. Delicious. Right? Like they love it. Okay, so we've laid that groundwork. You understand now why the system benefits from your imposter syndrome, and you understand now why through years and years of academic and then corporate conditioning, you are now at a place where it is only through primarily external means that you can gain a sense of identity and value and a feeling of comfort and fitting in, which is just wild, but it's true. So what do? Like, okay, thank you. Perfect. I'm in a trap of my own making. Amazing. No, but like really, like what do you do about it? This brings us to the topic of inner authority, and it is a gentle but consistent reorientation of your attention from external triggers, validation, like little pats on the head, to building over time a greater sense of inner authority. So we move from a system of looking for other people to tell us that we're good, that we're okay, to a system where we give that affirmation and love to ourselves. So the main thing about building your inner authority is just really simple. It's you have to figure out what your purpose here is. Okay, like you have to figure out what is it that I'm here to do, which is really understanding who you are. I always say, like, tell me who you are and I'll tell you what you should do. Okay, because we are people in motion. We are creators. We are here to teach something or serve others or be of service or, create and make and teach and lead. Like we're here to do something. Okay? And so that is when you figure out, okay, what is my North Star? What is the thing that I'm meant to do that I've been ignoring that I know I should do it, but I don't do it? What is that thing? That is going to put you in the right orientation. Because instead of being worried and trying to figure out, like, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I should do. Maybe my boss will tell me. Maybe this random person will tell me. Maybe this coach will tell me. Like, nobody's going to tell you. You have to tell yourself. Okay? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take you through 5 questions. And these are questions that I have tested and kind of worked with a bunch of clients to sort of figure out, like, these are kind of the questions that I tend to come back to. We're just going to go through them one by one. Now, as we enter into the sort of self-inquiry piece of the video, what I want you to realize is this is not a one and done. Okay, there's some questions that are really gonna be on the right sonic wavelength for you, and you might hear it, but then it's gonna like sink a little deeper and it'll keep calling to you, and it'll be a question that you can come back to again and again. So we don't care about face value. Like, we don't care about your first go at this. Maybe this is something that you're going to have to come back to in a week. Maybe this is something where you get a question and you're just like literally not a brain cell. Like, I have no idea. I'm blank. I'm zero. I've got nothing for you. Okay? And that's normal. A lot of people will reach that state where they're just like a little panicky and they're like, I don't know what the answer is. And then they give up. They're like, oh, I can't, like, I guess there's no point. Like, I guess I just won't answer these questions. And here's the thing, being flustered, being befuddled is actually good for your nervous system in this regard, because it means that you're stressed because you want to know, but you don't know. That is the best state to be in. I know it's super uncomfortable, and I don't mean to be like a weirdo telling you like discomfort is good, but really, if you meet a question where you're just like, oh, I don't know, and it stresses you out, that's good. That means you're on the right path, because it means that your brain is now going to be working on it in the background when you sleep, when you're just hanging out, and all of a sudden, a week and a half from now, you're going to be in the shower and you're going to be like, oh my God, like download. Okay. So the first question is, what is a quiet dream that will not leave you alone? This is something that is just quietly insistent. Maybe it's something that you've wanted to do since you were a kid or a teenager, or something that you kind of go in a circular motion with. You'll have an idea or a dream or something kind of come alive, and then you'll think about how great it will be, and then you'll think about all the ways that it won't work, and then you'll kind of get distracted, and then it'll just go away, but then it'll come back, and it keeps appearing. It keeps coming to you. Okay, so what is that thing? What is that quiet dream that won't leave you alone? The second question, and I want you to literally just like whatever comes to mind is the right answer. Okay, don't overthink this. What is one thing that you want to do before you die? And I'll follow that up by saying, no, really, like if you could have anything, what would it be? Like, what is the one thing where you're just like, ugh, like I feel called to create this thing or write this thing or do this thing or make this thing? Number 3 is I want you to take a little survey and think about who in the past year or 2 have I been jealous of? And when you write this down, nobody has to read it. Nobody has to see it. Okay. And I say this because of what we're looking for is a certain intensity of emotion. Okay. And even though jealousy is typically painted as a negative thing, like, oh, you shouldn't be jealous or envious of other people, right? I think what it points to is a certain intensity of feeling, right? There is a part of you that is like mad at them because they have what you want, and it I don't want you to dwell on the you not having it and them having it, right? That's not what we're dwelling on. What we want to focus on is, what is that thing? What is it about? Because also jealousy, it's such a primal emotion. Like you're gonna feel it in your gut immediately, okay? And then you'll sort of do all your machinations to try to backtrack and be like, oh no, like I'm happy for them. I'm not like you try to like justify your own negative tendencies, right? Again, this all can happen in the quiet reflection solitude of your own home. You do not need to broadcast this. Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know I'm deeply jealous of so and so. Like nobody needs to know. But it is this idea of, I felt a very real pang of intense emotion towards either someone I know or towards a total stranger. And what is that a clue to? What is that a map to? Number 4, if you were guaranteed to succeed, if like whatever little venture you want to do, whatever you want to do with your life, if you were guaranteed to succeed, like somebody wrote a contract that was like, congratulations, whatever you pick, you were going to succeed. Whatever success means to you, okay? What would you do with your life? We ask this question because it's important to strip out the fear. It's important to, first off, I truly, like with my whole heart believe this, that I do think that if you really, really want something, you will succeed. Now, that's not to say you wouldn't fail 50 times first. But if you had the tenacity, like most people are gonna, if you really, really want something, and if you're tenacious about it, and if you are very dedicated, you put in the time, you put in the work, you continue to grow, you iterate, like chances are you might not be like number 1, but you'll be in the top 10. You know what I mean? Like great things can happen for you. So if we took out the uncertainty of, oh, there's no point in this, I'm wasting my time, I'm not good at this, I'm not naturally good at this, you know, maybe I should pick something else, that kind of noise and gray matter that just exists, right? If we took that out and said, you're gonna do great no matter what would it be? How does that change your answer? Okay, and lastly, I want you to think of a time when you felt lost and confused. And I want you to really put a name to that feeling and try to understand, what was it specifically about that moment or period of time that left you kind of feeling like you were wandering through the dark. I think it's important to examine this because it can really give you clues into what you're supposed to do next. I'll give you a personal example. So back when I was still working in corporate, I remember there was this time I was in my room and I literally was like crying because I was working a 9-to-5 job. I had basically abandoned my coaching business. I was like working for someone else. And I remember just being like, please, 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 God or whoever is out there, like, please just give me some direction. And I felt so, it's like sad. It's like, whatever, I'm not going to judge it. But like, I felt so helpless and I felt like such a donkey. Like, I just felt like like it was a total moment of surrender. And when I look at that moment, of course I've thought about that a lot, because I think that was really my breaking point, and that was when I was like, I truly need to like give this whole coaching and social media thing like a real try. Like I think I really want to do it. But when I think about that moment, the most salient feature of that moment was the fact that I felt I was grieving for the life unlived, and I felt that I was not living up to my potential. And not that I thought like, oh, I'm so great. That wasn't it. But I just felt like, wait a minute. I felt like I was running out of time. I felt like I was not living up to my potential. And I felt like because there was a greater purpose, you know, I was not meant to be like an account manager and working with clients. Like that wasn't like in line with what I really wanted to do, which was to be of service in a honestly not corporate way. And so I feel like deep in my soul somewhere, I felt that. I didn't know how to name it, so I just cried. Like I didn't know like all of the, you know, different alchemy and chemicals that were like happening. But looking back, if I were to really reflect, it was because I felt a deep sadness for how I was spending my time as it related to my potential to help more people in a way that was not just gonna like benefit some corporation. Okay. And looking back, of course, it all makes sense now. But at the time, it was just so much pain and fear, because there was also a sense of like, well, what if I'm not like, I have all this desire, I have all this oomph, this energy, but like, what if it's not good? Like, you know what I mean? And so it was this sort of crisis moment of, do I believe in myself? You know, do we just blindly believe in ourselves, or like, what are we gonna do? Right? So I know this is tough because you may be in it and you may not be able to put a name to it or accurately, you know, identify every piece, which is easier to do after the fact, right? But the fact that you could even look at it with a little bit of discernment, with a little bit of a scientific eye, and try to piece together for yourself, oh, this is the nature of what I'm feeling, I think will give you so many insights and hopefully point you closer towards like what you're actually meant to be doing. All right, so to recap, we have talked about inner authority, the importance of having a sense of self-determination, figuring out what you're meant to be doing in this life. Okay, and we've also sort of given you permission to be who you are, to exist as you are. And if you're in the middle of it, to not feel bad, because this work, this sort of self-reflection is hard work, and most people don't do it. Okay, so you should be commended for putting in the work, putting in the reflection. And even though it feels crazy and you feel like lost, that intensity of emotion is actually good. It means you care. And if you care, you will find your way out of this. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I feel so supported here on YouTube, and I love everyone. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Okay. Bye.